Welcome to Shut Up and Sit. I'm Yedda Stansel, a consciousness coach and consultant. I'm on a mission to bring mindfulness to the modern world. Each week, we will offer ancient healing practices, real-world examples, and the latest research in neurobiology and behavior change into fun conversation that invites you to wake up your highest self. Now, let's go shut up and sit. All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm so glad to be back with you here on the Shut Up and Sit podcast. Hey, whoa, I was going to say, you've just got me today, but you got some badass motorcycles. Did you hear that? Oh man, I love the sound of a motorcycle. Can I tell you? Oh, that was like, you know what that was? That was perfectly timed because on the last episode that I was down here, I was thinking about my dad and I was talking about my dad and how I, drank beer when I was at his motorcycle race. And so as I was sitting back down today, I was thinking about that story. And you know what? I'm just going to say that was just a little bit of maybe my dad just kind of buzzing by to be like, hey, I heard you. Because I fucking love speed. And that's why I think some people that know me are like, wait a minute, you talk to people about shutting up and sitting down and getting quiet. I'm like, I do. I'm the last person anybody would have ever expected that I would have figured out how to get my shit together and shut up and sit and be in silence and be totally okay with calm, cool. But here's what I love about me, and here's what I love about getting you guys into this conversation in the mainstream. There's an edge to me and I own it full-heartedly. I absolutely love to go to the races. I love the sound of speed. My son and I are totally addicted to Formula One. We travel all over the world and go watch Formula One. Why am I telling you that? Because you know what? I do like silence. I like my stillness. I love to shut up and sit and go within and get into my imagination and into my mind, understand how it works and teach people the same. But I'm also a human being. I still admit and know that I like fun things and I love speed. So the motorcycle's going by the studio today. Man, that's just a cool way to start this show. So as you know, as always, we're joining you from the Mindfulness Bar. We're downtown in Richmond, Virginia. We just hang out here. We do a little day drinking of silence. We talk about how can we sit with our suffering instead of numbing it. On our last episode, you learned a little bit about that. We talked about the ways that we handle emotion. We talked about suppression and repression. We talked about getting into a place of expression, which is one of my favorite. And then we ended where we talked about escape. What do we do to escape our emotions? And so today I'm going to kind of carry you a little bit into a really cool technique that I absolutely love. It's called the stop technique. And before I teach you that, because it's going to be a little dynamic and a little bit of fun, if you're at home or you're in a static place where you're hanging out somewhere that you're going to be able to move, I'm going to actually get you to do the stop technique with me. So if you're driving or it's not possible for you to actually do the technique when I teach it to you, that's cool too. But on your own, when you get to a place where you can actually do the stop technique, listen to the show again or take your notes and make sure they're handy, because this is something we do with our whole body. We don't just cognitively talk about the stop technique. So I'm going to get there in a second, but I wanted to make sure one of the other things I shared in the book, because you guys know every week I'm doing a show and every single episode is actually from the table of contents. So if you have the workbook at home, if you opened up to the front of the book and you saw right here in the front of the book, you can see we've got bullet points underneath every single chapter. So a chapter heading and a bullet point, and every bullet point following to the next chapter is literally an episode. So we've got 52 episodes. So you can get the workbook, you can sit at home, or you could get the book. You just have to buy your own little journal because there's nowhere to write. There's literally just the book space. And you can follow along and you can actually learn some of this work on your own. The reason I did that was because there's a lot of content in here. When I coach clients, I end up coaching them for a while because we teach this stuff to them. I teach it in companies, I teach it in communities. So I want you to know that you have this handy and the stop technique is in there and you can go back to all of that stuff. But every episode is one of those little bullet points in the table of contents, so you can follow right along. And today, that stop technique that we're going to teach you is in there. But before we jump into that, I really wanted to share with you on this kind of chapter of emotions. We started this chapter with one of my clients, Carrie. And Carrie is an incredible female leader here in Richmond, Virginia, in an amazing industry that most women they certainly don't go up to the level that she's at. It's not common, and is on track to be really a prominent CEO in the finance industry, which is absolutely cool to see. And so through the book, woven throughout, I have different client testimonials. And so Carrie was able to come into the studio. She shared a little bit of her story. She's also on some of our testimonial videos that are on the website, so you can hear more about my clients and their work through the journey in different ways. But I wanted to share with you because Carrie learned this stop technique, as all of my clients do. And we've got her actual testimonial in the book. It's called Voices of Mindfulness. And even though she was here to open up the chapter, each client, whatever chapter their testimony is in, they're actually doing that as an opening episode for me. We didn't get to really get into a lot of the specifics around Carrie. So I thought what we would do today is one mindfulness tool that I love. I love when people read out loud. I love to be read to. And my son, if he was here, would tell you he grew up with a mom that would read to him. So I thought it would be really cool today. I want to read to you. It's just one little page here in the book. I want to read to you the voice of mindfulness coming from the voice of one of my clients who's done this work. So you're not just hearing what Yedda loves, what Yedda did. You're hearing what other people did with this work as well. So I might love speed. I might love when motorcycles go cruising down the street. You might be different. Everyone is different, but I love for you to hear multiple voices. And that's why sometimes on the show, you've gotten another guest that comes along that speaks with me. Sometimes you just hear me, but if they're not able to be here or we couldn't cover everything that they could share, I thought it'd be fun to read to you. That's a real mindfulness lesson. You probably didn't think about that. You probably thought meditation or sitting in silence in a dark room was the only way to get there. Actually, mindfulness is anything that wakes you up. Anything. It could be through reading, it could be through writing, it could be through watching, experiencing. Mindfulness, if you remember, is showing up and paying attention on purpose without judgment. So when someone reads to you, that's a mindfulness practice. So wherever you are, I've been hearing from a lot of folks, and I know that people are like, oh man, I listen to you while I'm doing gardening or, while I'm washing the dishes. And so you can still keep doing what you're doing right now. Or if it's available to you, maybe it's the only time you're going to have today, or maybe even this week, you can actually sit down and you can either keep your eyes open. If your eyes are open and someone's reading out loud to you, maybe try to find a nature view. Maybe you could look outside your window. You could watch the trees or the birds, or if you have a pet nearby, find some space visually that is neutral for you. And if it's not neutral, maybe even creates a positive emotion or a positive feeling for you. And when you're in that space, that's mindfulness. And then when someone's reading to you, you're able to pay attention and hear another perspective. So I do get that question a lot. Well, do I have to have my eyes open or closed if I'm doing mindfulness? Well, you can have them open, but you don't want to be watching things that are inflicting harm or causing negativity. And so I would not want you to be watching, a murder mystery show of some sort and then trying to listen to something that is mindfulness based. We want to have the energy in alignment. We want to have the emotion, remember the thoughts in our head actually are energy that travel through our body. And that emotion is the energy of thought in motion. And so I'm going to read to you today, but you do want to be in an environment that has calming, soothing sounds, feel, look, aesthetics. And that's really important because in your environment actually impacts your energy as well. Robin and I were just talking about this before we started this episode because we were kind of recalling what we were talking about on the last episode about, you might have remembered, I talked about how do the rocks cry out and that everything's energy. And that energy is a frequency that everybody and everything in the world has a sound if we could audibly hear and tune into the frequency. And when we get into environment, those frequencies impact us. And so while a lot of the mindfulness teachings have, sometimes they have music, sometimes they don't, but they usually have an environment where the aesthetics and everything in the space is really calming. Because energetically, it's impacting your body and helping your body to calm down. They literally have music for mindfulness that's tuned into different megahertz that actually impacts the thoughts, the feeling, and the energy in your body to help your body drop deeper into a state of calm, in relaxation. So singing bowls or recorded music, there's a lot of different things out there that activate what's called a theta brainwave, which we're getting into in the next chapter. So we're not quite there yet, but I just want to tee this up for you. So as you're listening to what I'm going to read, whatever's happening in and around you right now is actually energetically making it easier or harder to go into a state of mindfulness. And so when we first start with mindfulness, that's why we like the studios, the yoga studios, the meditation studios. They're either aesthetically very calm, placid, lots of white, lots of calming looks and feels and vibes. And it's also why nature is really good if you're going to go into mindfulness. So a lot of the monks and the shows that we see in the East are in, these beautiful hills and mountains, and the architecture is simple and there's not a lot of visual distractions. The food is simple, the clothing is simple, because it does impact the energy going on inside of us. Now, I do want to point this out. You can make your outer world look fucking amazing, and it could be like this ashram that you live in. But if you're not in the inner world of keeping that shit tight and clean and neat and all together, then the outside world can only go so far to impact the inside world. Because the truth is, the real equation is whatever your outer world looks like, it's probably a representation of what your inner world looks like. Because what's in here usually creates what's out there. A lot of clients that I work with, especially if they're local, and I guess now sometimes I do it on Zoom, I actually ask to see their space, their physical space. Where do you work? And when I start to see cluttered, when I start to see, that's an indication that something in here is not neat and filed away. And remember, on the last episode, I said, you are in control of your mind. It's not the other way around. So the Shut Up and Sit work and these episodes are to help you get your shit cleaned up on your inner world. And when you do that, then it makes it so much easier for the outer world to be calm and clean and clear. So we can biohack a little bit with your environment, with music and with aesthetics, but if we don't have it going on in here, it's only so long that we can hold and force stuff to happen out here without it feeling, it feels like work. I want you to get to the point where it feels organic, that you're going to be able to manage your thinking and feeling processes and actually be able to consciously create an outer world that just screams freedom, love, abundance, joy, peace, harmony. And so we're going to make sure as you listen to the next little thing I'm going to read that you are in a space, if your eyes are open, that give you that sense of safety and calmness. If it's possible for you to close your eyes, what happens when you close your eyes in mindfulness and you just listen, whether you're listening to the birds or you're listening to me read, what happens when you go into the inner world and you actually close your eyelids? Your brain moves from sorting and sifting millions of bits of information, where it's climbing that ladder of inference and taking data and trying to make meaning for you, which is, your brain's an amazing computer. It actually switches from sorting and sifting to internal regulation. So literally by closing your eyes and just listening, your entire brain process starts to shift. So your brain can't consciously deal with inner regulation at a maximum efficient pace or speed while it's also sorting and sifting billions of bits of data that are flying around outside of you. So that's why we close our eyes. So remember, I talked about this on the last episode. I love to ask questions. That was one of my first questions in mindfulness was, do we have to have our eyes closed? What happens when you close your eyes? So I found out what happens when you close your eyes. So if you're in a space and you can close your eyes right now, I invite you to do that. Give your brain a break. Go into a little bit of kind of self-regulation. Come back in to allow your brain to kind of check in. Hearts, lungs, kidneys, bones, muscles, digestion. There's some really cool stuff happening every millisecond in your body. So we're going to close our eyes, find a comfortable space if you can to sit down. I want to actually read you Carrie's story, her voices of mindfulness. So with our eyes closed, if possible, if not, and they're open, that's okay. Just make sure you're looking at something that's creating a very calming, very soothing experience. So Carrie says, Before I began mindfulness training, my life was characterized by anxiety and fear. I have always worked in a high-stress environment, and while part of me enjoyed it, another part of me wasn't dealing with it very well. I found myself often focusing on the negative, wondering, what's the worst thing that could happen? Instead of, what's the best possible outcome for this situation? I had trouble making decisions because I was too afraid of what could go wrong, and I often felt like no matter what I did, it was never enough. I simply did not have the tools to see beyond my fears and my doubt. So one of the first things that I gained through mindfulness training was a clarity of mind. Now when I'm thinking about a list of things I have to do and it feels like there's not enough time to do it, I have the tools to bring myself back to a place where I can focus. I sit up straight, I uncross my legs, I breathe in, I breathe out a couple of times, and I like to focus on a specific word to center myself while I do this. This is my form of mindfulness practice. I even use cards that have one word printed on each of them, positive words like purpose or clarification or spontaneity. Simple yet powerful. Sometimes I pick one at random, and that becomes my mantra for the week. Whenever I get a chance to sit in silence, I go back to that one word as a way to keep my mind from wandering. Maybe one week the word is wisdom, and I'll keep saying that word over and over again in my head. Wisdom, wisdom, wisdom. And it brings all of my thoughts back to the center again so I can push everything else out of my mind, and as a result, one of the second things I gained was the ability to be present. I also started dabbling in yoga. I used to dislike yoga because at the end of each session, there I was in savasana, a moment of silence where you have to sit with your thoughts and be still. All I used to be able to think about during savasana was the laundry list of things I'd have to do when I got home. I couldn't even be in the moment at the end of a yoga class. I viewed the whole thing as wasted time that I could be used doing something else, like grocery shopping, or the laundry, or continue in a workout. It was downright painful to sit there and be still. But now, after practicing mindfulness, now I enjoy that stillness. It's one of my favorite things to do. I look forward to yoga, and I look forward to the time to be silent and reflect. How I've changed my day has also changed. Or how I've started my day has also changed. When I wake up in the morning, or when I'm on the way home from my morning run, I think about what great things are going to happen that day, or how I'm so thankful that my children are healthy. I try to think about one or two things that are positive for me instead of focusing on the negative, like, I've got to deal with this today, or I really don't want to have to think about this big project I have going on. When I was first starting my mindfulness practice, I had to do a lot of guided imagery because it was so hard for me to focus and not think about everything else that I needed to get done. And now I just meditate on the positive things in my life. Along with this, I've learned to just be thankful for what I can get done in a day. I think as women, we tend to beat ourselves up a lot. For instance, the other day I was running with a friend and the humidity was 97%. My friend says, "Oh my God, we are so much slower than the other day." I felt like I could have done so much better. And I looked at her and I said, "The glass is not half empty. Let's be thankful for getting up and coming out here at 5:30 in the morning and running despite the heat and humidity," I said. "You should not be beating yourself up." But I used to do the same thing all the time, thinking of what could have been better, what choice could have been better, what could I have done better than the one I'd already made. It's been important for me to change that mindset. Perhaps the best way I can describe mindfulness is by comparing it to a magic drug. In the past, I tried so many different things to relieve stress, yet nothing worked. Even something like exercise, which I used to consider my stress outlet, wouldn't get rid of my anxiety and fear. Now it's kind of magical to be able to just sit in silence and bring myself back into alignment with who I am and what I'm about. Sometimes I wonder what it would take to go back to those previous feelings of anxiety and fear as if it's all been a dream. But it's been important for me to make those drastic changes in my life so that I don't. Meditation is one of those drastic changes. And the change takes time. This is not an overnight phenomenon. Just like diet and exercise, mindfulness work is like working a muscle. It's not like you do it for a week and you're mindful. It's a slow, steady, and continuous process. You have to keep doing it. You have to do it little by little, and you have to commit the time. It's just a matter of believing in yourself and who you are. And if there's any doubt in your mind that you can't do it, just remember that you can. You've made it this far, and you can make it further. And so those are the words from Carrie directly, read to you right out of the Shut Up and Sit book. And I think this is a great way for us to be reminded and hear other voices, people who are doing the work, just like you're hearing and listening to the show, getting the validation. She shut up, she sat down, she did all of the work that's in this book. That's how I coach my clients. It's the foundation to the beginning of any coaching relationship. I literally take them through every page of the book, and every session we go over every single component. So in Carrie's testimonial video, she said, I didn't know it was going to be this hard. I didn't know it would take this long. And now she looks back and realizes, yeah, it might have been hard. It might have taken a long time, but you can hear from her own words, it's liberated her to a whole new way of showing up and a whole new way of living. And that's really what mindfulness gives us, is the ability to interrupt patterns, to go within, to choose to see what's happening inside of us, and to learn how to deliberately bring and create out in the world what's really in the best and highest good, not only for ourselves, but also for everyone else. Because when we show up with healthy, happy thoughts and behaviors, just like her story with her friend, it impacts other people. And wouldn't it be cool if we lived in a world where we were all able to do that for each other? Because I know for a fact, Carrie has down days where her friends pick her up. I have down days where people come along and help remind me. What I call that is waking up. I'll call a friend and I'll be like, I need to be woken back up. Can you just bring me back to the space of reminding me how to wake up, how to go within, and how to do this work? Because it's dangerous when we start on that downward spiral and then we get lost, and we usually take people with us. So if we all knew how to do this work, we could help hold each other's hands and wake each other up and say, hey, you just forgot. That's it. All the shit that's going on in the world, we've forgotten. We're living in a trance, and we believe that there's nothing we can do about it. There is always something we can do about it. And we can go within, we can shut up, we can sit, and we can start to figure out how we can climb that ladder of inference and see things differently, which is what the stop technique is going to show us. But I have to tell you, I brought some really cool props today because I use these. If you're not on video, you're not going to be able to see them, but that's okay. I'll describe them to you. But when I'm working with clients, you guys, I love, just like I was telling you, our environment, it could be the white walls and the pretty carpets and the, serene environment, the soft music that's all telling our nervous system, calm down, be zen. Well, I love that stuff. But I also love humor just as much as I love curiosity. And so I have these really cool glasses that I actually will have clients put on. I sometimes wear them myself if I want to be really put in the environment of learning to see things differently. So if you're on video, you can see these glasses, guys. If you're just listening, they look like kaleidoscopes, literally. Like if you see these glasses, and so I'm going to put them on. And what happens when you put these glasses on, if you could imagine, you know what you do? You kind of look like you are a fly. Anybody remember the movie The Fly, and they showed you the perspective of like the bazillions of particles? So when you wear these glasses, I love them because what happens is everything gets fractaled up. That's my new F word. It's all fractaled up. So you see all these fractals of parts and pieces, which challenges us to look at things differently. And so when I put these glasses on, or when I tell my clients to put them on, I'm like, hey, can we just interrupt the pattern for a second? Can we do something really cool to give you a different perspective so you could see it maybe in a different way? And so the humor of these glasses are really cool. I love to put them on sometimes just to kind of go, whoa, Yedda, wait a minute. You think you know what's going on, but you're not seeing all the parts and pieces like these glasses show us. So if you want to order them, they're on Amazon, but they're really cool, these little kaleidoscope glasses. But that's really what we're learning here, and what Carrie had to learn was she had to see things differently. And she had been wearing the same colored glasses, right? You all know the story, wear the rose-colored glasses, or put on rose-colored glasses. But it is true. The filter through which we see the world is in our unconscious. And we sometimes need to wake up, and this is what shutting up and sitting does. It allows us to pull up what we're using, what glasses, what lens we're looking through, and just try something different on. So I actually get into creativity and what I call serious play with my clients, where I'm like, hey, if you don't know another perspective, put these glasses on. And you'll immediately start to see all these pieces floating around, which shows you your brain can see things differently. And a dear friend of mine in New York, Ezra, he told me, he's the one that I took that it's all fractaled up. He's a Jewish spiritual teacher, and he goes, yeah, my F words, it's all fractaled up. And I'm like, oh, I love that. So it's just a bunch of fractals anyway on an energetic quantum level. So this whole idea of the stop technique is to give you a pattern interruption so that you can learn to stop and not go on the old rote memory, but to challenge yourself to say, I got to stop. I want to interrupt the pattern. And so when we go through that, it does give us a different perspective. So I'm going to actually teach you the shut up and sit kind of stop method, so that you guys can take this out into the world. So here's the way this works. It's in the book. It's literally at the section of the 9 steps of letting go, which is our next episode that's coming up. But it's the first step of the 9. And I teach this in all by itself because it's that powerful. It's that important. So here's the stop technique. It's literally an acronym. So the S literally is actually for, and I've got to move this because Robin's got me on video, so I got to make sure I move my little seat out of the way. The S is actually for stand up. We actually want you to stand up. So when I say stop, I want you actually up out of your chair. All right. So I'm going to walk you through it the first time, but we're going to actually do it together. So you're going to stand up. That's your S. Your T is you take a deep breath. Your O is you open your mind to another possibility. And your P is you pause and then proceed. So I've got Robin behind the camera. He's already sitting down, but I'm going to have Robin play the game with me. So Robin, you're going to sit down. It's so much more fun when we have somebody to do this together. And here's what you're going to do at home. You're going to sit back down in your chair. All right, I'm going to try to stay close enough to the microphone that I can keep this together. So this is what happens. So when I say stop, you're going to literally jump up and stand up to your feet. And I'm going to take you through this entire process very quickly. Are you guys ready? So in 3, 2, 1, ready? Stop. Stand up. Robin's like back there, stand up. And so why do we stand up? So we can shift the energy of where we are in time and space. Now, T, take a deep breath. O, open your mind to another possibility. That might be just looking around. It might be looking up. You're just going to open your mind to another possibility that could be here present with you. Maybe it's physically present. Maybe it's, let me open my mind. Is something else going on? Maybe I'm writing a story that I don't have all the information to. And then P, you're going to pause. That's what silence sounds like, and that's a pause. And then you're going to proceed in a manner that is going to experiment with something different. You're going to just do something different. So what would that mean if I said pause and then proceed with something different? If every time you, if you're working on a new habit or pattern, and every time, and Robin, we can sit back down. He's still standing back there looking at me like, Yedda, when am I going to be able to sit down? If every time you do something, you do the same thing over and over again, just pick the opposite. This is not rocket science. So if every time, and I'll use myself as a teachable moment, if every time you send a text message telling somebody how wrong they are about what they're doing to you when you get frustrated, do the opposite. Put your phone down. I've literally had moments where I've walked over to friends and I've been like, take this. Just take it. So you do the opposite. That's the proceed part. Okay. So, Robin, we're going to sit down one more time because we're going to make sure our audience knows before we wrap up today how to really do this. All right, guys, if you're seated again. So whenever I say the word stop, you pop up into stand. All right. So I'm not going to give you a countdown this time because I want you to be paying attention and listening. And so stop, stand up. Robin's got it down to, he's back there just jumping right up. He's like, I got you, Yedda, I see you. So that's the stand up. All right. Take a deep breath again. Open your mind. What's another possibility here? This is the game of opposites. Pause and just playfully experiment with doing the exact opposite and proceed. Just see where it takes you. All right, we're going to sit down as we close. So here's the great thing about this exercise. Every time someone says stop, the rest of the night, you're going to be jumping up like, whoa, you told me to stand up. Why do we get you to do that? We're really literally trying to shake shit up. You have to move your body if you're interrupting a pattern. And why I say that is back to the environment. You have to move. You've got to shake it up. Otherwise, you're on autopilot. You're just a little rat in the maze. So you stand up to literally wake up. Okay, it's the opposite of shutting up and sitting. So a stop technique here is, this is our mindfulness practice. Sometimes you move in mindfulness. You stand up, you take a deep breath, you open your eyes and mind, and you look around. What's another possibility? There are millions of possibilities that could be happening. Then you pause and you proceed, you experiment and do something different. Have fun with it. See what kind of outcome it gets you. There's no telling what you might find out about yourself or about others when you do this. So we don't have to always be so serious. And this STOP acronym can be used for you. It's a great game to play with your kids. I used to do this with my son all the time. He definitely knows the STOP technique. And I'm like, stop. And he freezes, stands up. He's like, oh, okay. So you can have a lot of fun with this with yourself and with other people, but it's a pattern interruption. And why do we want a pattern interruption? And why do we do this with play? You cannot go in your life somewhere that you cannot first go in your mind. Do you guys hear that? You cannot go somewhere in life that you can't first go in your mind. So the STOP technique takes your mind into a space of stand up, take a deep breath, open my mind to possibilities, and then proceed. And that's why we do a lot of this in narrative coaching, and we do a lot of serious play is, and I've got this last visual before we close. And again, if you're not on video, that's okay. But I want my folks on video to take a look at this. And I've got this ball, if you're listening, what this is one of those toys. You've probably seen it at the Science Museum where it's like this tight little ball. And when you start to pull on the ball, it opens up and it gets really big and it's got all this cool space. It kind of looks like a molecular structure, if you will. And when you push it back together, it gets really tight in a ball. So this is what STOP does. It opens the window of possibility. It opens your mind. It opens your body. It opens into what you're going to try to do differently. Instead of being this tight, constricted ball, you cultivate awareness. That's literally what mindfulness is. And this is another way to do it. And you can do it with serious play. So you have a choice. Am I going to stay tight and constricted? Am I going to stand up, take a breath, open up, and then look at all the ways I could proceed and then try something different? And so again, this is another playful tool that I have clients do. I have some people who've bought it and they have it at their desk and I'm like, where are you? And they're like, I'm right here. I'm all tight and squinched. Okay, where do you want to be? I want some space. All right, well, you got to stop what you're doing and you've got to do something different. That's the way this work works. So the more you do that, the more you get the habit of being able to stand up in any other moment, take a deep breath, open your mind to possibilities. Maybe it's at a work meeting. Maybe it's at a family function. Pause and then proceed with something different. And the reason I like the opposite game is we are habitual creatures of negativity. That negativity bias that runs through us that makes it so easy to go down the downward spiral. If you remember, Philip was talking to us about this. It's in the book. It takes 5 times as many positive experiences to have the same impact in the brain neurologically as one negative. So if you go down that track and you're on the negative downward spiral, 5 times as many positive things to try to get you to open back up if you're going to try to meet it. Well, why wouldn't we just start with positive? Why wouldn't we just interrupt that pattern? Get in our mind first the habit of stop, don't go on autopilot, do something different, choose it, and then experiment with it out in the world. So I love this because I can't say it enough. You cannot go out in the world and create loving kindness and compassion and joy and abundance and success and freedom if you can't find it and experience and play with it in here. That's why I love that I have such a vivid imagination. And when clients say, gosh, Yedda, it's like you're the eternal optimist. Not really. If you guys saw a movie projector of my thoughts, I work at it. I just work at it really fucking hard. Okay. I know what's going on, but I use my imagination. And I also use my imagination with my clients to help them see a different perspective. So I bring in fun, like my little toys, my glasses, my little expanding little molecular structure to show you can do this. It is possible. And so imagination and playfulness is all right brain. And when we're in these patterns and habits, we keep attacking patterns and habits with the left brain, like it's got to have a logic and a language. Well, you know what? The parts of you that are hidden in your shadows, that your ego is trying to protect, that it doesn't want anybody to see or know about you, it doesn't respond to logic and language. Guess what? It only responds to energy. Energy can be moving your body. It can be trying on something different. It can be a form of play. It could be your aesthetics. It could be music. It could be all these things. That part of us, it has to have an energetic experience. So the stop technique is an energetic pattern interruption that then allows logic and language to come in. And if you're like, Yedda, where are you taking us? I promise you I'm wrapping up. I'm taking you to the end. Today's show is a little bit shorter because I've got a lot there that I threw at you, and I want you to be practicing the stop technique. And next, when I come back on my next episode, I'm going to dig into the rest of these 9 steps of letting go, because again, my little curious brain was like, now, how do you let go of beliefs that have been around for a long time? I mean, I've got some that I've had for 48 years. How do I let go of those beliefs? Well, it is an energetic conversation. It's also a logic and language conversation. But this stop technique is the energy comes first. Then we start going down the logical steps and the language of teaching you the actual process of letting go. And so on the show, I'm bringing you all kinds of stuff, and I've got so much. Now you probably see why the episodes are literally 1 episode a week out of one little chunk in the book. I could probably talk for another 30 minutes just literally on the stop technique. But I'm hoping today I can give you a little bit of freedom to go out and practice that. And some of the shows are 40 minutes, some are 30, some are 50. I don't think we've gone over an hour yet. I hope we haven't. But the good news is, the value isn't how many minutes we talk in short or in long form. The value is, can you take what you're hearing? Can you take it from the show and actually implement it in the world? That to me was another problem I wanted to solve for. Lots of great stuff that you need to be knowing and doing, but can you listen, and instead of, drinking from a fire hose all at once, can you just take the stop techniques and work on it for the next week until you come back, and then I'll talk to you about the rest of the 9 steps to letting go. So we're kind of on a journey together. We're just taking a little bit more, but this one's one of my favorites because you have to interrupt that pattern. So, are you ready? One last time. All right, stop. Stand up. Oh, I didn't stand up. I'm on video. Stand up. Take a deep breath. Open your mind to possibilities. Pause, and then proceed. So as we get ready to wrap up the show today, I've sat back down, but you guys, if you're still standing, I want you to take this stop technique out into the world, practice it over the next week. Remember, all the work that you're doing is opening up to expanding you to new ways of being. It's all fractaled up, and it's going to be fractaled up for a little while because I'm showing you a lot of different ways to look at a lot of different things. But what if we all saw the world as fractals? What if we all just saw this beautiful kaleidoscope and we accepted every aspect of every piece of every person, including ourselves? That's what Shut Up and Sit gives you. We've gone into some cool stuff today. You've got your stop technique. Put it in your front, your back pocket, in your pocketbook. I don't care. If you don't have the book, get a copy. Get a copy so you've got the stop technique in its written form with all these cool resources. You can go to shutupandsit.com to grab that. You can get the book or the workbook. You're supporting an incredible cause when you do that. But more importantly, you're supporting your own growth and evolution. So I'm loving hanging out with you guys. I cannot wait to come back for the next episode. Don't forget, we're talking about the 9 steps of letting go on the next episode that carries stop is number 1, but we've got 8 more to go. And I'm going to tell you what those 8 are when we come back on the next show. And I've got some surprise guests coming up, so you don't want to miss them. I can tell you what they are because people love a little mystery. So I will see you on the next episode. And until then, stop. Interrupt that pattern, get your shit together, and go out in the world and try something different, and let me know how it works for you. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.
May you know goodness. May you know peace. May you know contentment. May you be at ease.